Okay, great. Here you go. I forgot to record. So this is using Canvas quizzing over poll aware. So go ahead and answer these questions. pollev.com/BrucePoll. It's a poll everywhere question, but I put it in terms of a survey that you can answer it at your convenience. So as you go through, you'll notice that you have the own checkbox that you can set. Once you have that completed, just click that checkbox. Let me know that that's a yes.
Bruce, I'm not seeing the poll. It just says, welcome to Bruce Poll's presentation. As soon as you display a poll, you don't have it published.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Although I don't know how the two results got in. But
No, that's fine. That's on me. There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Thank you so much for that.
You bet.
Hi, Celia. As you come in, you'll notice that I have a poll being made available. If you go to pollev.com/BrucePoll, you can participate in those poll questions. Let me put the first question out there so you can see the link. It's pollev.com/BrucePoll. If Celia, you can just open a new tab in your browser and type that in. You can answer those questions. And it's self-paced, so you can go through the 4 questions one screen at a time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close those polls.
Just for feedback, Bruce, question 4 did not allow me to select more than one choice.
Right. Choose all as applied. Let's see if you can do that.
Well,
you'd have to change your, right, yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close the polls just to show you. And I know most people already know these polls, but that's fine. So as I go through each, oh, come on. As I go through each question, and I can show you the responses, in a classroom, you're using this more or less just to gather that information. Did your students read the content that was provided to them, whether it's a textbook or it's a journal article or just some other information that they had to go through? And by doing that, you're gathering their responses, you're gathering whether there was some transfer of information, you're gathering whether they understood what the content said to them and the necessary knowledge base that they needed to have gathered. And so from there, that will lead your discussion with your students as to the knowledge base that they have gained outside of the classroom. The purpose of assessments, as stated here, is really we're providing incentives, but we're trying to encourage students to complete some preparatory work that they should have done outside of the class. And so the result, and we hope that this is a result, is that by providing a method of frequent assignments or tests or just assessments, that we are enhancing student learning both outside and inside of the classroom. Now, the reason why we had this webinar, and based on the title, is that in a discussion with a faculty once, he said to me, you know, I'd like to use PolleAware for testing. And whether it was low-stake testing or high-stake testing, he never indicated. But he wanted to use PolleAware as a testing, and he said, Bruce, how can I do that? my thought was to discourage him from doing that, because portable-aware as a tool is really just to encourage that in-class participation. My hesitation to use portable-aware for high-stakes or even low-stakes testing is that, number one, I can't guarantee that question security. Students, as you know, can stay from their dorm and they can respond to your questions. Students can find other means to respond to questions by finding data outside of the classroom. And so it's not practical for high-stakes testing. It's not supportive for randomization, such as gathering from a question bank. And it doesn't say much on the knowledge of the course material within an assessment framework. But it's great when you want to gather what they read, what is their understanding right there in class. And so it has different question types that are quite creative. And you can do repolling of questions because based on students' responses, you realize that they're not grasping the content information. So that's what the portable-aware is used for, and that's why we had this webinar to address that. So quizzing in this scenario, and here is a faculty. In a previous course, her course really comprised of 2 assessments. There was a paper that was worth 60%. There was a multiple-choice quiz that was worth 40%. The multiple-choice quiz was given midterm, and then the final paper, at the end of the semester. Well, you can so imagine what she saw in her students was that they were overly consumed by grades. They were overwhelmed by the heavy weight being given on just these 2 assessments, and she didn't really have that opportunity for feedback so as to change the student's performance before it was too late. So her solution was that she was going to change, and she's just going to change on the quizzing side, more graded assessments, which will provide the ability to chunk materials over a longer period of time and be able to gather not only based on performance, but also to provide some feedback to change and or increase that performance to move a student from a failing to a passing, or just barely mastering the material to attaining mastery of the material. And so she changed the grades, moving from only 2 assessments to multiple assessments. As you can see here, she had a paper, she had quizzes, 14 quizzes over the week, and then she had a multiple-choice quiz, mid-semester, and a final assignment paper. I'm going to focus on just this area, quizzing for each week. What she essentially did was that for every class, she provided a quiz that the students had to take before they came to class. Those quizzes asked questions that the students in answering, they got the foundational knowledge, and then when they came to class, then she could build upon that. She saw their responses, she saw where they were not getting or grasping information, then they came to class. In her lecture, in her rapport with them, she could focus on those problem areas. Secondly, the weighting was more evenly distributed, not based on one assessment, but on multiple assessments. And so as you see here in this Canvas course, she was able to use a weighting that was more distributed across much more assignments. And if I just show you here in real time, in this assignment, here is what the student is seeing, that these quizzes were given before the beginning of each class. Another thing to note is that in the quizzes, the students were able to take it at least 3 times, and in so doing, they had enough attempts in which to probably make a better grade. But the fact that they did not give the students what was the correct answer within each time, because when she had her class participation, that is when in the discussion those correct answers would come out. This then helped her to be able to reuse these questions in subsequent classes, subsequent semesters. So that was her scenario. Now, the use of quizzes. Why do we use quizzes? Well, we can use quizzes either as incentivizing preparatory work, doing schoolwork outside of the class. We want the students to be more engaged because we're struggling with students not reading the material, and so we're trying to put that carrot and stick to get them to engage with the material before they come to class as a means of enhancing their understanding. And so we're linking effort, we're linking the grade, but we're not providing them with the correct answers to the quizzes. So can you imagine then, we moved from only 2 to multiple. What she saw was that there was less stress because now they had much more assessments in which to make good on their performance. The students are able to contribute to the class because those quiz questions increased their knowledge of the material. They were participating out and inside of class, and the faculty, as I said before, would be able to review those quiz responses before they had the in-class discussions. Another result is that recognize that the quiz becomes a means to an end. You're increasing understanding because you're just giving them a low-stake assessment to build on the course material. So the quiz is developing, as I said, a literature base that will build up for the final paper or the mid-semester multiple choice quiz, or maybe you have a discussion forum that is built on it. But whatever it is, the quiz is a basis for each ensuring lecture, each ensuring assessment, building on the discussion. So it's a nice feedback loop because students take the quiz, they come to the class, you build the participation, you build a knowledge base, they go back, they probably do a paper, you provide feedback, and you have more than enough time during the semester to do so, as against the first scenario where there is only 2 assessments, 1 mid-semester and 1 final semester. Now, the use of quizzes provides so much more. In my quiz, I had here these first 4 or 5, as it were before the class. And so here is the student. Student comes to the classroom, comes to the course, goes straight to the quiz, and as the student takes the quiz, the choice is yours. Do you want to give them feedback? Do you want to let them take it more time than usual? Whatever the case, they're able to take that quiz multiple times and to get those feedback. Another method to use is you can provide different types of feedback. You can, in this case, this would be just 1 question. That's all you need because you want them to provide a more formalized question as against multiple choice, true or false, multiple answer, that sort of thing. But then you can also provide a feedback after the fact. And so once the students take it, once they're finished, you would provide them with something that says, okay, you're on the right track, or not. And so here in this one, let me just submit this one as a student. When the student goes and look at the attempt that they did previously, here it says correct answers are hidden. That's fine. That builds upon the previous, that builds upon the lecture. But when they go to this one where I provided feedback, then the feedback would appear here for that student. I also talked about the fact that for the faculty, you can provide feedback to those quizzes by simply going to the speed grader. And so right here, there's a student. And now I can either use the comment here to talk about their performance on that quiz, or I can choose to, here it is, I can choose to show them after the fact what their performance was based on the on their test that they took. So let me show you how you could do feedback, whether you want to provide feedback or no feedback. So in this one, I created these questions, and each time that I had the students take the quiz, you notice here that I placed comments if the student chose each question. So for each question, I utilized some comments, whether to say that's the correct answer or not. I also chose to provide them a generalized comment, such as if it's a wrong answer, then they need to go to the textbook in chapter 2 on page 65 to read a formal Declaration of Independence information. So I am pointing them back to course material based on their performance within this quiz. I can provide it at the end of the quiz, or I can choose to provide it per question. So in this case, I'm going to let them see it after each attempt. And so as a student takes this test, I'll carry over here, Declaration of Independence. As a student takes this test, they will get some response once they have finished. And there you go. So based on each question, they get some feedback that provides them with an answer. And then here are the detailed information where I'm now pointing them back to a chapter, a page in chapter 2 to do that. And so I do that for each of them. I can give them partial or based on that. So we can provide more information based on how much we want to do. Let me run back to my presentation here. Oh, one more thing here. What this other faculty also found, let me run back to the assignments area, is that, as you may or may not know, because I'm using the percentages and the weights, I'm able to put rules. And to get to the rules is a matter of, I decide that I want to give them one lowest score. So I'm giving an opportunity to the student to say, look, if you are sick or something comes up, I'll drop that one lowest score. But within that group, there's one assignment that is so critical, I'm not going to allow you to drop it. And so I'm going to name it. And so that one assignment, again, is within this group. So I'm able to put rules there. I'm also able to, by using this this tool called Outcomes and Rubrics. It allows me to set an outcome where I can see that the students attain mastery, and from that, within the grade book, I not only get a area for grades, so here is grades, and students see their grades all the way to the total, but I can ascertain if that student, based on that final examination, has attained or exceeded expectation, met that expectation, or does that meet expectation. All of that is simply because I have aligned an outcome to the question bank that's within that quiz. So there's so much more that you can do on the quiz part to ensure that your students are meeting the necessary level of understanding based on the work. So in summary, really, quizzes, not only can you use just text, but you can add so much media and multimedia to questions. You saw in one before, not only did I use images, but I actually used a video that the student was able to watch and then answer our questions. You can provide feedback within the quizzes. You can provide feedback based on pointing them to something after the quiz based on their performance. Outcomes provide that level of mastery. And even more so is that I can add requirements within modules. Just by using the modules, I can say that if a student has, if a student has, completed a quiz. So if I add a quiz here, let me say I add a quiz here, then within the requirement, I can point to that quiz and say to the student that they need to score at least, 60, let's say 70 out of 75 before they can even move to the next area of that module, simply by that quiz. So now I am, really gauging their performance based on activities that they must complete. And in this case, it's an activity based on that quiz that they must complete within the modules. Like everything else, question bank, which is assigned to a quiz, provides what portfolio is not able to provide, which is randomization of your questions. In other words, I have a question bank of 100 questions. I can choose to give students 50, and there is a good chance that not many students will get the same question as their peers. In terms of question security, you can do so much more, whether it's limiting the time, whether it's putting one question per page, whether it's doing the responders lockdown browser to lock so that students can't get out. But quizzes add so much more security to assessment than what Poll Everywhere would have been to provide. So at the end of it, in terms of quizzes over Poll Everywhere, it's not so much that it's effective on student performance, but it becomes more effective when you integrate it as part of your overall course strategy, class strategy. In this case here, the faculty not only increase the number of assessments provided, but you use it as a means to an end, where that the students were able to complete these numerous low-stakes activities before class, come to class with that prerequisite knowledge, and then engage them in conversation within the class to broaden their scope. So my thought is, rather than focus on Canvas quizzes versus Poll Everywhere, why not try Poll Everywhere supporting your Canvas quizzing as you seek to increase the success level for your students? That is all for my presentation. Does anyone have any questions or feedback for the others. You can either use your microphone or you can use the chat.
Bruce, this is more feedback than a question, but I think I misunderstood the nature of this course.
Right.
When I saw, the title of it, I thought it was doing a Canvas quiz. It says over poll everywhere. I didn't realize the usage of the term over was like in favor of.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. So that tripped me up a little bit. I still gained, considerably from the deeper understanding of the Canvas quizzing capabilities, but I thought it was more of an integration of, doing the quiz over poll everywhere and then integrating that into Canvas.
Okay, no. It was really, maybe, is this lunch?
It is.
It is lunch. One thing that I said when I started the webinar was the conversation or the webinar came about because of a conversation I had with faculty. It was more than one faculty who wanted to use Polar Aware for low stakes and high stakes testing. And I advocated that Canvas quizzing would be a better thing to use. And so I showed what were the strengths and weaknesses of Polar Aware and how Canvas quizzing could really perform much better for those low stakes all the way to high stakes testing. For me, Polar Aware is really used to bring out a point or to bring out that discussion in classes, especially for the large classes where students are being left behind because they're not able to say something.
Right. Okay.
But thank you for that, though. Thank you for that.
You bet.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating and seeing this. Please, you can send me an email. Sorry, I can't give you this food that's on the screen, but you can choose which one you would like, and hopefully we can meet one day over one of these. So some upcoming webinars. We have instructional material, Universal Design on February 22nd. We're going to be looking at the mid-semester feedback toolkit, March 1 and then March 13. There's a webinar on assigning and evaluating presentations. I want to thank you on behalf of CTO, and I wish for you all the best for the rest of the day.
All right. Thanks, Bruce.
Bye.